Today, let's just mention the elephant in the room first. My eyebrow. I slicked my eyebrow due to peer pressure and my friend doing it, and she was like, do it. I was like, well, we're in quarantine and why not? So I did it. It'll grow back soon though, and it's not really that noticeable, so we'll go with it. Today, I kind of wanted to talk about my mental health journey, so let's get into it. So my mental health started suffering maybe 2017. I'm a chronic worrier. Like, if anything bad's gonna happen, it's gonna happen to me. It all started off to my knowledge, after watching a Mock the Week episode, and they was talking about nuclear attacks, and I felt so anxious that it was going to happen. And the episode was from maybe a year before, maybe 2016, and I was having a meltdown on the inside, and I was literally having a breakdown. And I went up to, because my dad was upstairs, I had to come upstairs to my dad, and I was like, Dad, what's the likelihood of this happening? Help, because my dad's a non-worrier. My dad's so calm in situations, so I go to him. And he was literally like, it's fine, no countries have got beef, don't worry, you're fine. So that was my first kind of thing that I noticed, that there was something not extremely right, but I just kind of thought nothing of it. So I kind of became a chronic worrier then. My dad said that my mum was a worrier. Like, I walked off in a pub one day and my mum was panicking, and my dad always relays that story to me, but it just kind of got worse from there, in my opinion. Anything that I heard on the news after that, I felt anxious and didn't know what to do. I'd have to talk to my dad about it, and he'd calm me down. Being a non-worrier and calm about these situations, he'd always be like, oh yeah, but back when I was a kid, there was this and stuff like that. My dad was born in 1955. Like, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're not talking World War II here. But yeah, there was always stuff going on, and in my head, it was all building up like, this is my life going to be ended before I've even lived it. And that was on my mind a lot. I'm quite interested in what's going on in the world, so I like to watch the news, and that causes problems for me because that makes me anxious. So as well as wanting to be intellectual and understanding what's going on, I have the problems of my anxiety gets up as soon as there's anything bad. Like, when I was in college, before I finished my animal management course, I went to see a support worker because I thought something has to be, maybe they could see something was wrong, maybe. And she said to me that it was potentially linked to my mum dying, me never facing it. I mean, I was only 10 at the time. If you've not seen it, I did a Draw My Life. I might do an updated one, but I'll link it down below or wherever, and you can see my life through then. But yeah, I was only 10, and I never received any kind of, apart from family, I never really received any kind of counselling or support, so I kind of didn't really face it at the time. So it was, when she said that, it kind of, everything made sense, that it was potentially my mum dying and me losing people was linked to me dying and my fear of that. She suggested that I go and see a counsellor, and she emailed me a list of counsellors, and I just ignored it. I didn't go because I thought, I'll be alright. Like, now she's said it, I feel calm and I feel like I've realised it, so now everything will be fine. But it doesn't work like that. Like, you can't just push it to the back of your mind like it's not a thing, that it's not happening, because it is. And then it was the time of where the USA and Iran were kicking off, and in my brain, I used to see the news and I was like, oh my God, the whole world is going to go to war, and that is my life over. Like, something's going to kill me and I'm not going to get to live my life. But I was pushing people away at this time, around this time, because I thought, especially my friends, because I was like, if I die, then they're gonna be upset that I've died, and I don't want them to be upset that something's come and killed me. And I was constantly worrying about the news and everything that was going on. I'd maybe catch a clip of it before I went to bed, which is the worst thing that could have happened. I'd lay in bed and be like, this breath I'm taking now is going to be my last breath. And that is what would be on my mind all the time. I didn't want to sleep because who knows where you go when you sleep? That's not a Billie Eilish reference, but it's a fact, isn't it? And how do I know that when I go to sleep I'm not gonna die and not wake up again? So it was always plaguing my mind that was gonna happen. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes to make sure I'm getting everything right. In January of 2020, I got sick and tired of it. I got tired of worrying, tired of not being able to sleep, not wanting to eat because it was everything going on. Everything with Iran and stuff in the USA had calmed down then, and I was like, oh, thank God. I was like, this is brilliant, peace at last, finally. And it was about a month, maybe less than that, and then this coronavirus thing started. And that started everything up for me again. So in January, I decided to get myself a counsellor. I contacted a counselling centre, which they're amazing, and I told them about my worrying. I filled out a form. I told them about my worrying and how I'm sick to death of it. I'm sick to death of laying here worrying that I'm going to die, and that the people around me are going to die, and everything was just horrible for me. And within a day they got back to me, which in my head I thought, do they really think I'm that crazy? I wasn't assigned a counsellor until maybe a month later, and they kept cancelling my appointment, and then they changed my counsellor. But once I started seeing her, she helped me a lot. At first I was kind of skeptical because I was a bit like, I know people that have experienced counselling and they've just thought nothing of it, like it didn't help. And at first, because the counselling I go to is, they deal more with kids, she was giving me stuff to fiddle with, and I was kind of like, I mean, in daily life I do that anyway. I mean, I have a ball of blue tack here that I'm always doing this with, and around school I used to carry a wristband in my blazer pocket, and if I felt anxious or anything, I'd just start snapping it together. I was very skeptical because she was making me hug a teddy, and I was just a bit like, I'm 19 here, I get that you deal more with kids, but and she told me that basically with losing my mum at a young age, and we also talked about losing Molly, and I spent my 45 minutes crying over Molly, because I was talking about my dogs, Benson and Stella, and about how they was upsetting me and how I really didn't like them. I can't bond with Benson, blah blah blah. They're okay now, but I couldn't bond with Benson. I really couldn't do it. And I spent 45 minutes crying because of Molly and how upset and hurt and everything I felt about losing her just came out. And I thought I dealt pretty well with Molly, but clearly I hadn't. When I'd been to one counselling session on the Monday, I was literally waiting and waiting for the next one on the Monday after that. It was an endless cycle where I'd go to see counselling, my worrying wouldn't be mentioned, my past would be mentioned with my mum and stuff, the trauma of it would be mentioned, but my worrying wasn't brought up. So I'd literally be going on the Monday and waiting for the next one. I'd feel anxious all week and then wait to go to the next one for it not to be brought up. It wasn't the counsellor's fault. We'd talk about other things and then get sidetracked, and then we wouldn't talk about it, and that really in my head wasn't helpful, and that's why I was a bit more skeptical of it. She'd always ask me if I was suicidal or would self-harm, and I'd always say no, because that would bring me closer to my fear of death, and I didn't want that. So I'd always be like, nope, not suicidal, nope, never self-harmed. nothing, because I haven't, and I genuinely couldn't because of my fear of death. As things started to get worse with the virus around the world and me hearing it on the news, my worrying started to get worse as well. Like all the time, constantly crying, just worrying about I'm gonna die, my nan's gonna die, dad's gonna die, everybody. Like it was just everybody I loved was gonna leave me. And I couldn't lose my dad. After losing my mum, I couldn't lose my dad. That is one thing, because my dad's diabetic. So obviously, with recent statistics coming out that like a quarter of people who die from it have got diabetes, I've been trying to protect him. I nearly stopped going to uni before it closed because I didn't want to bring anything home with me and give it dad, because if I get something, dad gets it about 5 times worse and for longer. Even though he is quite healthy, but I couldn't do that. My counsellor asked me if I'd ever had a panic attack, and at that time I hadn't. I'd never had a panic attack. I was fine, like I didn't think anything of it. But the week after I literally said I've never had a panic attack, I started worrying more. After seeing what the lockdown in Italy was like, I literally started worrying about what would lockdown be like here. Would we be able to go out? Would we be able to get food? Like, would the army be walking around? Because the media was putting out all these things about martial's law and stuff, and I was there like in my head like, oh my god, this is all gonna happen. And then people saying that they'd seen the army coming from this base and this base, and I was like, oh my god, this is getting worse for me. And the amount of people I had say to me, just calm down, it's fine. Saying calm down to somebody with my worrying mentality is not helpful. And I'd just be like, oh no, like you don't understand, because people aren't in my head and they don't understand that worrying is a big part of my life and it always has been. I started worrying about going to the pub as well, because I'd go out to the pub on a Thursday night with my family, and I'd be worrying about I can't go because I don't know who I'm going to pick something up from. And literally my dad was like, this was before lockdown happened, he was like, if you isolate yourself, then it's like saying that I can't go out to the pub either. And I'm like, you can go out, just choose who you're near, like be careful. And it's like, but I myself didn't want to go out because I felt safe in my little bubble at home. I ended up having a panic attack every day for 3 days, and the final one I had on the Thursday, just before I was going out, an hour before I was going out to meet my family at the pub, I had a massive, massive panic attack and I couldn't breathe. I was like, oh my god. And I was literally with dad, and by this time I felt like I was getting on my dad's nerves, crying all the time over this, and it was something I couldn't control, and it was really upsetting for me. So I contacted this messenger like web chat for young people for dealing with anxiety, called The Mix. And they calmed me down by asking me to tell them 5 things I could see, and 4 things I could touch, and 3 things I could hear, 2 things I could like smell, and then like a thing I could taste. And it helped calm me down. I'll leave a link to The Mix below, because they are incredible for helping people with anxiety and just talking to you about what's going on. They give me links to follow about anxiety and stuff. There's also Young Minds, where I actually found The Mix. I'll leave a link to that as well. Young Minds have a list of places you can contact with anxiety if you're having like a panic attack or whatever. They have a 24-hour like thing you can text, and they'll talk to you. And I considered calling the Samaritans as well, but that was really, really like, everything's going on in my head. I don't know what to do, because obviously I'm 19, I'm classed as an adult, and I didn't know if like The Mix or anything had talked to me. So I literally was like, I don't know what to do. And I literally said to my friend, I was like, if I contact the Samaritans, am I overdramatic and crazy? And she was like, over coronavirus? Yeah. I was like, okay then, won't do that. Because obviously, when I think about it now, it does sound a little bit crazy. But there was nothing I could do. I was in a state of panic, massive state of panic. I went back to counselling on the Monday and I told her about my panic attacks and we talked about my worrying then. And she put it into perspective for me that, and I'm reading statistics on my phone, there's just over 67 million people in the UK. And as of today, there is 33,614 people have died from coronavirus. So my maths is probably wrong, but I did it on Google. That means 0.04% of the population of the UK has died, which is obviously really sad that this amount of people have had to die from this. But it doesn't seem a large percentage, and that I should think about it and make logic of it and realise that it's in my head. My counsellor said also that when you are watching the news, they're talking to you, that it's going to come to you. And it's not. Well, it might do, but it's unlikely that everything's going to come straight to you. But in my head, I was like, oh my God, like, this is going to happen to us. So what I did, I started listening to the news on the radio because I can't see the person talking to me then. And I don't feel like it's as personal. So if it was going to help, why not? And it did. I wanted to keep up with everything that was happening so I wasn't ignorant to it. And listening to the radio helped. Like, I'd come back from uni, my dad would be driving, and I'd listen to the radio. And it'd tell me this many people have got it. And we was on about 2,000 cases then, or something like that. And then I'd be like, okay, we're fine, you know. And then I heard that people within the city that I live started getting it, people who come back from Italy and stuff. And I was like, oh no. Oh God, oh my life, what am I going to do? I'd had a really bad week. I was really anxious and I really, really was like, hold on here. Like, I don't know. I just felt anxious every day. Like, people at uni were mentioning it all the time now. Everybody was talking about it and I was using hand sanitizer a lot. Like, it was overreacting, definitely, but in my mind, that was the worst situation. I was like, I'm not going to uni, you can't make me go to uni. And my dad was like, just go. Until they say you can't go, just go. I told my personal tutor at uni that I was really suffering and I'd seen a counsellor, I'm worried. I even contacted the dean of the school and I was there like, what's being put in place? Because I'm seeing that you're meant to be cleaning the library more and I'm seeing nobody, and you're meant to be cleaning the campus more and I'm seeing nothing. I was like, I've got people in my class who are in accommodation and they're worried about what's happening. Like, what is happening? And I went and had a meeting with him about everything that was going on and stuff, and literally a week later we went on lockdown. So back to my bad week. I'd had a really bad week and I went to my counsellor just before lockdown. And I remember that day that I went to see my counsellor because she was talking to me and we was upstairs in her office and literally the fire alarm started going off, and I have a phobia of fire and fire alarms mixed together is a no-no for me. It was an accident with the fire alarm and stuff, and I stood outside and I'm like trying to breathe and stuff, and my dad was annoying me just because he was like, are you alright? I'm like, no. So when we were finally allowed to go back inside, there wasn't much left of my counselling session. So we sat downstairs with my dad, and she said, does your dad know and stuff about what we talk about? Or I was like, yeah, I tend to tell him what we talk about, because we're open and we're quite close. And I said to her, I was like, I feel like I'm annoying my dad. And he was like, you're not. My counsellor said that with everything going on and with my worrying and anxiety being chronic, that maybe I should talk to a doctor about getting some kind of medication to calm me down a bit. Because it was constant and I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, like, and nobody kind of understood. So I said, okay. And maybe a week later, I rang my doctors up, obviously because we weren't doing face-to-face appointments anymore. And I had a phone appointment with a doctor, and she did this like questionnaire kind of thing with me. After we filled everything in and stuff, she diagnosed me with severe anxiety and mild depression. Not that I felt depressed or do feel depressed, because I don't. Like, I don't feel it, but apparently maybe I am. So as of the 16th of March 2020, I have been on antidepressants. The only thing is that I don't feel any side effects or any different. I mean, in my head, I'm thinking, is it a placebo effect? That I've started taking these tablets, so do I now think that these tablets have sorted it and I'm fine? Or the tablets are not making me feel anxious? I don't know. I don't know if it's working, and I do have a 3-month checkup coming up, but I don't know. I honestly couldn't tell you, I don't know. So that's one thing. Is it a placebo effect for me? I don't know. And I still have my days where I'm anxious, but I'm a lot better than I was. I'm very anxious about going back to work, because obviously I don't know, even with like PPE in place, like I don't know who I'm around, like it's just giving me anxiety thinking about going back to work and stuff, but I'm trying to deal with that. And I'm also anxious because I don't personally think it was the right time to lift lockdown. Overall, I've been on quite the journey. I plan to see my counsellor again after lockdown, so we'll see how this goes. But she said something to me that actually, that like I want to get as a tattoo. She said, I'm shattered, not broken. And I actually made myself a Instagram that gives updates on how my antidepressants are going. I'll leave a link to the AD diaries down there. And I've not uploaded in a while because I've not felt any different. But we'll update soon. We'll be fine. So yeah, that's kind of my mental health story. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you sometime. Bye.